Hi, I'm Janet Napolitano, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Homeland Security begins with hometown security.
Well, it's here. 1984 in America. This is the straw that breaks the camel's back. There is no doubt that we're in deep trouble as a society. The head of Homeland Security, Big Sis, Janet Napolitano, has now come out and announced that over 800 Walmarts in the next month are going to install telescreens at the checkout scanner with different federal orders to spy on the other people shopping.
That's why I'm pleased that Walmart is helping to make our communities more safe and secure. If you see something suspicious in the parking lot or in the store, say something immediately.
Homeland Security is putting up billboards all over the country that say if you see something suspicious, communicate it. Okay, well, I'm going to communicate something to you, Homeland Security. I see it suspicious that trillions of dollars have come up missing and the private Federal Reserve won't tell Congress where it's gone, and it turns out it's foreign banks and corporations. I find all the corruption in government that's growing out of control to be suspicious. No wonder you want to distract us with all your fables about terrorist boogeymen. For anybody who studied history, this is completely obvious. We are going into hardcore tyranny.
Report suspicious activity to your local police or sheriff. If you need help, ask a Walmart manager for assistance.
This is Big Brother on steroids. And folks, this is not a surprise to people that have been reading our sites, because Homeland Security for at least 2 years has been on record starting these Viper teams and checkpoints in Boston and New York City and Miami. Suddenly it's on the local news showing them doing the grope downs, grabbing people's genitals, patting them down on the streets of America. This is wrong on so many fronts. It's a violation of the 10th Amendment.
Our Tampa police and federal government agencies are teaming up to keep your family safe.
It's the sort of security we've seen a lot of since 9/11. Now, here at the bus station. It's all part of what Homeland Security calls Viper, for Visible Intermodal Prevention and Response.
This way, us and our partners are ready to move in at a moment's notice.
Folks, it doesn't get any more Big Brother 1984 than this. But it's not going to be Big Brother. It literally is Big Sis when you're checking out, looking down on you, telling you to spy on people around you, injecting paranoia into the society. This is worse than those terror threat levels they had. And now the former head of Homeland Security, Ridge, has gone public saying they would issue those for political purposes.
A vigorous, some might say dramatic discussion ensued. Ashcroft strongly urged an increase in the threat level and was supported by Rumsfeld. There was absolutely no support for that position within our department, that's Homeland Security. None. I wondered, is this about security or politics?
This is our nation turning into an East German Stasi society. And now the system doesn't care. I mean, Wired magazine, feds warrantlessly tracking Americans' credit cards in real time with no warrants, completely illegal. They don't care, they're announcing it. The Wall Street Journal comes out and says, is your video game machine watching you? And goes on to admit that the new Microsoft Kinect system face scans you and has microphones on board and can identify everybody in your home. Our culture has been so conditioned to accept Big Brother that schools in Pennsylvania and other states come right out and say, yeah, the government-issued laptops that we give you, we're watching you at home when you're in bed. Make no mistake, this is the story of America's enslavement. If we will put up with this, we will go along with anything. And notice this is happening as the economy implodes. Law enforcement sent my office the Homeland Security and MIAC reports over a year and a half ago, where the government's internal documents admit 90+% of Homeland Security funding is for gun owners, conservatives, libertarians, returning veterans. The big secret is this Homeland Security system is for the American people. And we had all better come together and defend the Bill of Rights and Constitution, or it's over for our society. Again, it is not my opinion that Homeland Security is already on the streets of America. And now they've purchased hundreds of high-powered X-ray vans driving around looking through our walls and our cars. That's on record in Forbes. They've now purchased dozens of these huge 18-wheeler tractor trailers for football games and music events where Homeland Security is going to make you march through these. I mean, this is total takeover of society.
Under the Future Attribute Screening Technologies, or FAST program, The Department of Homeland Security is developing innovative physiological and behavioral screening technologies to streamline the screening process at security checkpoints. The mobility of the FAST demonstration laboratory allows security officials to quickly and efficiently establish security boundaries. Inside the screening mobile module, a suite of real-time, non-invasive sensors measure behavioral and physiological indications of malintent, or the intent or desire to cause harm.
We've got to stop conforming to this tyranny. We've got to recognize how dangerous it is to our society. Imagine what's coming next if we go along with this outrage. And one more point. If you don't like what Walmart's doing with these telescreens and this whole Big Brother system, call them and let them know that you're not going to be shopping at their stores until they kick the federal government out of them.
Thank you for doing your part to help keep our hometowns safe.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the sites, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.
You are obsolete, Mr. Wordsworth.
A lie. No man is obsolete.
You have no function, Mr. Wordsworth. You're an anachronism, like a ghost from another time.
I am nothing more than a reminder to you that you cannot destroy truth by burning pages.
You're a bug, Mr. Wordsworth, a crawling insect, an ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being.
Words, Mr. Wordsworth, that have no substance and no dimension, like air, like the wind.
I don't care. I tell you, I don't care. I'm a human being. I exist. And if I speak one thought aloud, that thought lives, even after I'm shoveled into my grave.
Delusions, Mr. Wordsworth. Delusions that you inject into your veins to make you think you have a strength when you have no strength at all. You have nothing but spindly limbs and a dream, and the state has no use for your kind.
Resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. It's Alex Jones.
It was Bertrand Russell who said, I don't know, back in the 30s, and a lot of other ones, George Bernard Shaw and others, said that if the state didn't have a use for you, you would be killed. They're the ones, people that like a big government, that always lecture everybody how they want to take care of us, and they care about us, they love us, but you study history, it's a lie. What a wild evening so far. George Noory earlier, David Icke, who's so spot on politically and such a great speaker, and God, I hope he's wrong about off-world stuff controlling the planet. We don't usually get into that subject, but David Icke's such an icon in the awakening movement that we do have him on, and I think he's a good soul at the end of the day. Mike Adams has been here for the last hour and a half or so, and just covered a lot of amazing information. Dealing with the attack on raw milk and the demonization. Now, I've seen them demonizing women that even in public places will cover themselves up and give their child sustenance. That's evil. Anything human, anything normal, anything natural is evil. And it's all part of the system, the power structure waging war on the natural world. And it doesn't mean I'm up on some high horse, Mr. Healthy, have all the answers. I can recognize what's good and bad, though. And it's in that recognizing good from bad that I guess makes us human. Now, coming up, always informative, always interesting, Alfred Adask will be joining us to look at the state of the world today. We then, of course, have Texe Mars joining us, always extremely informative. We have Mr. Corbett of the Corbett Report joining us, Fritz Springmeier, fresh out of prison, and then Aaron Dykes at 2:30 in the morning. Takes over, and Aaron's a great guy. You know, I sent him and Dew up to Maine to interview Charlotte Iserbyt, who worked in the Foreign Service and worked in the Reagan administration. She headed up the Department of Education as the head of policy, #2 position. And, of course, Reagan didn't know what was going on. He just was a puppet. I mean, when something's that complex, that busy, I'd probably be president and be a puppet just because you can't, there's so much stuff going on. Unless you tried to get into control of everything and tried to look into everything. The point is that she revealed a lot of stuff to us about Skull and Bones, The problem is, Aaron, we've had this interview for probably almost a year now. And we did part one. Did part one the first day of interviews about education. And was one of the most in-depth she's ever done. I know it's one of her favorite interviews ever. And then we put that on prisonplanet.tv. This one is 8 hours. And Aaron, for off and on for a year, in between all his other duties and films and documentaries and short news pieces and doing the show and updating the websites, gcnlive.com and also Infowars.com. About a week ago, I said, yeah, we're going to air that Skull and Bones piece. You're going to have that ready? And the thing is, he doesn't want to just have the dry interview. He wants to back up everything she's saying. He wants to show the documents. They spent hours and hours on top of the 8-hour interview filming all the books no one's ever seen, internal Skull and Bones stuff. They've got the grandfather clocks. They've got the whole thing you get. She's had multiple family members, her dad and others that were Skull and Bones. That's coming up in the early morning hours. Aaron has been up off and on for 2 days, and I told him today, I said, let's just not do this. I said, let's just wait and put it up on the special report section whenever you get it done. But in a way, it's so much stuff. It's like a film. He'll probably never get it done. So at least something's going to air. At least part of it is going to air coming up. I think it's 7 a.m. So we've got that premiering here, and we're really excited about that. I mean, this is some groundbreaking stuff. She's the lady who back in the 80s gave Anthony Sutton the information that blew Skull and Bones wide open. And now the research that she released is really the blueprint for what we know about Skull and Bones, and they now admit it's accurate because, her dad and other family members were members of that. So that's coming up. So that's just some of what we've got lined up. Jim Mars tomorrow morning, Alan Watt, Gerald Celente, Richard Reeves hosting an hour in the morning. But I'm going to go here till 2+ in the morning with all these other guests. But I wanted to have Mike Adams for another 15 minutes or so with us, because you always line up a bunch of guests and topics and things that are breaking you want to cover. But the assault on Whole Foods, and I don't mean the company Whole Foods, but the assault on real food, for those that missed what I was saying, the assault on humanity, everything seems to be intensifying. And the new wars, the police state, the censorship of the internet, all of this is happening now. Why do you think this is happening now, Mike Adams?
Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to your crew, by the way, Alex, because Aaron Dykes is back there working his butt off to get that finished, and everybody here is super dedicated. For those who watch your show or who listen and they don't get the chance to see behind the scenes is really, really intense, and people are super dedicated. No one is goofing off around here. When I walk around and talk to people, sometimes they say, I'm busy, I'm working on this film, love to talk to you, but they're so dedicated, so it's incredible. But in terms of, to address your question, Alex, why is this happening now? Why the acceleration right now? I think it's because so many people are beginning to wake up, that the globalists have to up their own plan of acceleration. You see, I think that the globalists had planned to take another 100 years to accomplish all of this. But when they realize that there are people like you out there, or people like David Icke, who are really sort of uncovering the patterns and the secrets and raising awareness, that the globalists realize, holy cow, we don't have 100 years to make this happen. We gotta push all of these things now. We got to push GMOs now. We got to push the vaccines aggressively now. And so that's what they're doing. And I think they're trying to accomplish their main goals, one of which is, of course, total depopulation, wiping out a big portion of the population of the planet through infertility or other means. They want to do that within 10 years, I think, or maybe faster. I mean, I don't know the timeline, Alex, but
well, they are going crazy.
Yeah, clearly they are going crazy. And if you look at the pushing of the Gardasil vaccine, it's a classic case of how they are accelerating.
Well, they're fleeing forward.
Absolutely they are, because they've been caught red-handed. But they can't say, oh, we've been caught, the vaccine is harmful to girls. Instead, they say, well, now let's push it on boys. Well, now let's attack Dr. Wakefield. Now let's discredit
They actually
everyone.
spin it. They go, it's boys that give it to the girls. They're bad, so now they get it. Like it's a punishment. You did it, and this will help you.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. Some of what's going on in their heads is pretty sick. And in fact, your interview and David Icke brought this up, where David mentioned that what has been removed from those bloodlines is a sense of human empathy. They literally cannot feel for another child or feel how another person might feel.
I think it's worse than that. It's not that they don't even feel, they enjoy hurting them.
Yeah,
in a way I disagree with David. They actually enjoy it. I mean, I heard that video last week that got censored on YouTube and stuff of the little 3-year-old girl with the whole bottom jaw blown off. I couldn't even listen to your show. That when you went into that, I had to fast forward. That haunts me.
Oh my gosh, that was truly horrifying stuff. But maybe there is an element out there that they well, there must be, because you look at what they do with children. I mean, you look at Child Protective Services, and you've covered this, and how some of those children end up, disappearing. Well, they don't just disappear; they're taken somewhere.
Oh, it's been confirmed. We have allowed, through national security and all these secretive systems, to allow the worst of elements of society to just do whatever they want.
It's really frightening also to look at the way the population allows it to happen. When someone allows the TSA to do all that without speaking out ever, someone just says, oh, it's fine, I feel safer now because they're feeling my junk and feeling my breast, whatever. That allowance of it, that mental acceptance of that kind of violation of human boundaries, that is what is the doorway to more tyranny.
Well, it says we're all guilty, too. It's this idea of there's no due process, there's no nothing, and so they're expanding out to the streets. Yeah,
that's the other side, the no due process. That's really frightening when you've got a president whose advisors create a kill list. The White House openly admits this. They have a kill list. These are American citizens to kill without due process. Even if you think they are a terrorist, or even if you think they did something, it is a principle of basic justice that every accuser can face their, every person accused can face their accuser and can face the charges.
And the accuser gets to face as well.
Exactly. And they should be able to have the opportunity.
No, they've totally turned over our system, and now all the liberty, all the freedom, all the blessings, it's going out the window. And the system's answer is more corruption. That will deliver you to Valhalla.
And yet, right now, with these Occupy protests that we see, and you've covered how it's a mixed bag, and how some of the interventionists are trying to hijack it for their own purposes. But when you get down to the core of it, enough people are frustrated right now to really take to the streets. And I think that's going to accelerate. I mean, David Icke talked about this a little bit. What do you think, Alex? Where do you think it's going in the next 6 months? A lot of people talk about 2012. It's right around the corner. What do you think is going to happen next year with the Occupy protests if they continue through the Christmas season?
Well, I mean, look, the system knew there was about to be a big rebellion against what they were doing. They could track all that with their algorithms, all the data they're spying on together. So they tried to trigger it. They tried to then co-opt it, but that didn't work. So now they're cracking heads all over the country. And clearly this country is in a depression. I mean, here we are having the 4th annual MoneyBomb. I wouldn't even promote these things. The first one we did 4 years ago, and I raised $300,000. And, last year I promoted it some and raised $437,000. This year I promoted it some, and we've raised a lot less this far into the 27-hour broadcast than we normally would, because the country is in a depression. I fully understand that. That's why I've tried to create all these different revenue streams so we can stay at the level we are and hopefully expand a little bit in the face of the globalists, because we do have an effect on them. I mean, we had Janet Napolitano come out just a few months ago and complain about Matt Drudge and the articles he was linking to about TSA. It's definitely getting to them. It's definitely having an effect on them. And, I mean, again, most revolutionaries in history rob banks to get their money. We sell books and videos and DVDs and have radio sponsors. So we're not revolutionaries. We're restorationists. We want liberty and freedom back, which is a new idea compared to the old tyranny we're basically going under. So in a way, I am a revolutionary or a Renaissance person.
What's really interesting about what you're doing here is you are the reluctant fundraiser at these events. You're never about the money. You've never been about that. Not behind the scenes, not person-to-person conversations, not on the air, nothing. For you're so mission-driven, but the money there's an infrastructure that's got to be fed in a way. You know, and right now, dollars are the only way that either one of us can feed.
Well, sure, exactly. The globalists will get us to kill our grandma for a stick of bubble gum and do anything for just fiat garbage. And people say, well, then why do you want Federal Reserve notes? Because that's the symbol of energy. That's what funds this. And I'll be honest with you, 4 years ago, I was not about the money because I had 5, 6 crew members. And we were just going to keep having the little simple dinky websites and maybe an article a day and some stuff we posted and a couple films a year on the radio show. And people were always, do this, do that, have this idea. And you know what? I realized, instead of being angry at folks always telling me to do more, they're right. Because we were already reaching millions a week then, we had a responsibility. And since I've tried to expand 4 years ago and I got 30+ people working for us and a lot bigger office and a nightly news show and reports every day and reporters, we're probably having 4 or 5 times the effect I was having 5 years ago. And so now it almost becomes a game because I have to make something interesting and fun to do it, to go out and get the sponsors and make sure they're the right sponsors, and to go out and raise the money and make the films and you know, products I like and then promote them. So, I mean, it does become an issue of, well, it also becomes an issue of people don't keep their job, which is also an important mission. People I've recruited, people I've trained, structure I've built, if we don't get the blood supply to them. And it's the viewers out there that supply that by spreading the word. I mean, look, going back 3 or 4 years ago, before we hit the total depression, as audience went up, revenue followed it, exactly. Now audience is going like that, like a fighter jet going straight up. Just, okay, audience is just like a rocket going into orbit. But audience is going like that, but in the last 3 years, revenue went like that.
Not tracking it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not tracking it. So that's how I knew I was in a depression 3 years ago. I'd never seen anything like this. People, I looked at all the actuaries, talked to the economists, and now they admit it's the greatest recession, triple dip. No, I mean, by every measure, that's a depression. So I understand that. That's why I've said on air, we will continue to operate if this money bomb isn't as big a success as the others, because I've done other funding mechanisms for the time being.
Yeah,
but it becomes a thing of like a drought, as a tree's got deep roots, so even in a drought it can live, but it doesn't flower as much as it would. We need people to spread the word about the free video streams up at Infowars.com. We need people, but not, and I'll say this again, if you're a old lady or old man on Social Security, because those are always the folks that actually try to give, I do not want your money. I've had people come to me in crowds, you know, like a blind man with like $500. He said, this is half the money I'm going to have the next month. Here it is. I stuck it back in his pocket. You know, because those are people that have hearts and souls. They're giving this thing. But then if I took that money, when I bought a new pair of shoes, I'd feel dirty. Or when I, you know, put gas in my car, or when I bought the crew pizza. You know, I don't want to, listen, there's plenty of people out there that are middle class or wealthy, and you're the exact types that sit on the money. And because you do that, the globalists are going to raise taxes and take everything you got. I mean, you either do like the founders did and others have done, you either invest, and don't invest here. Get my films or other films, whatever you make copies, but my films you can make copies of. Start your own website, start your own local radio show, start your own access TV show. You just better do something. And I'm telling you, one of the best places, bang for the buck, to support is Infowars, Infowars.com, InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. Right now, it's happening right now. And I see the donations. The average donation coming in is about $12. You know, we need to see the people that have made the money bomb successful in the past, 10,000, 20,000. You're the people that your donation is going to have the big effect. Mike, you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I do, actually. It's interesting. We have a similar experience in running organizations. Our organization, for the first 5 years of its existence, we didn't even take sponsors at all. And
I did the same thing.
We couldn't survive. I mean, we could not survive. We were losing money for the first several years. I actually put money into it because I have a background in the software industry. So I was taking money out of that and dumping it into what later became National News, is losing money every day. And then we had people just like you have who came to us and said, you got to cover this story. Oh my gosh, look at what's happening over here with the CDC or this vaccine or that pharmaceutical or whatever. And you get to a point where you say, we have a moral obligation to cover these stories, but we don't have the funds to do it. So the answer is,
you don't even have a crew to ship products or books. You don't have people to do research. You don't have the money for a building or cameras or equipment. I mean, it's simple. The government takes your money and gives it to globalist operations and MSNBC and NPR, We're here just saying, you know, buy the products, buy the books, whatever.
That's exactly it. And then once we began to take sponsors, then we really exploded in our ability to cover news. You probably saw that. You probably saw that happen in our history, where we're able to hire more reporters, better investigators, to put more money into a story.
No, the globalists, they're all about being big and powerful. That's why they always demonize any political activist that are outside the globalist paradigm ever even selling products. I used to give all my films away 100% free.
Yeah, you did.
And then the minute I started even selling them to fund myself, ooh, that's evil.
Well, you know, some of that is just the trolls out there, the obvious trolls who are always poking, you know, criticizing everything. It doesn't matter. They don't really matter. They're irrelevant. They're hired trolls. What matters is that your viewers and the people who are watching this and the people who are offering their donations right now at InfowarsMoneyBomb.com, these are the people who get it. They are the loyalists in the sense of they understand the importance of freedom in the press, in the new media. You are a massively a wave-making giant in the new media. And it's crucial that you continue to have the resources that you need to pursue this even further, because it's only begun. I mean, the acceleration that we talked about has only begun. Imagine where this is going to be in 12 months. Imagine how much more news you're going to need to cover. You're going to need that room back there where Kurt Nimmo sits. You're going to need, you know, a couple more people in there.
Well, that's the thing, is that we got this 7,500 square foot building with the money bomb 2 money bombs ago. And we started building the infrastructure, and there wasn't room. And then we, 2 years ago, got the other side, but they didn't have money to hire the people to fill it and build the studio. Now that's done. You've been over there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a 16,000, almost 16,000 square foot deal. We've got room for another 20 people, you know, cramming them in. We got easy room for another 10. But I'm just trying to hire 5. And then at the same time, we need to have a little money backup if I get sued or attacked. The globalists analyze our entire deal.
Of course they do.
I've got to be able to defend things. That's my mission. I've told my wife, I said, we will sell our house. If it ever, she's absolutely. She's always like, we should sell everything now and live in a ditch to fight these people. And I'm like, no, we've got to have some reserves here. You know, building up for a war, we've got to do this. But
there's nothing wrong with having a roof over your head.
No, but my point is we actually dream about other people coming forward that are light years better than I am, like you, Mike, in certain respects, so that I can just step back and, you know, move out to a ranch somewhere. We got family land and stuff, and literally, like, you know, you got donkeys and stuff and have a farm.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy fighting tyranny, but the problem is once you get into this, it's all encompassing. It is, you know, I'm up here 10 o'clock every night. You know, on the news crew, we've set all this up. We're beta testing it, getting it ready. It's already reaching a lot of folks. But we have barely enough people to even do it every night. We need a couple more just so people can rest sometimes. You know, it's kind of like a race car team where they've got the engine and the parts, and they put the car on the field with one set of tires. And that's what we've got. And the tires are bald and about to blow. The engine's smoking. We're winning the race. But I'm like, hey, we need a replacement parts. We need more fuel. We need tires. We need everything. I mean, we can, you know, do this on the cheaps. And I guess if, you know, the economy keeps going into depression. See, I wanted to outgrow the depression. I saw this coming 3 or 4 years ago. I wanted to be up front, to be at a bigger platform to face them. We're now here, but we're sinking as fast as everything else sinks. Just because we were ahead of the curve, we're like an island, but still the island's sinking as well.
Well, I think that as things begin to unravel out there, every milestone event that takes place proves Infowars and you to be correct, because so much of this you saw in the plans you talked about. You saw it coming out, not by any psychic means, just by analyzing it like you talk about. But as that begins to happen, more and more people will come to Infowars, and whatever future news efforts you have underway, they will get more and more attention. So you'll be able to, I mean, I think the resources will come to you because people are increasingly realizing that you're right. You've been right. You're on the record being right. It's not, you know, it's not pulling it out of the air. Oh, he was right. No, go back and watch the videos, right? Go back and even from before 9/11, you know, go back and watch it. So as people wake up, they are turning away from the mainstream media and they are turning to the new media.
I agree, but there's going to be the counter-strike to censor us and you and others.
Yeah.
There's going to be other attacks, that we already see happening, things that have happened before that we didn't really talk about. But you know, all this is going on, And so that's why I'm really glad and proud and honored and you know, satisfied in all this work that we did see this storm coming. We did prepare to get stronger and bigger in the face of it. Now I see the next bigger wave coming. And, you know, that's the issue. People have to decide what they're going to do, what they're going to support. Because so many people say, yeah, you woke me up, now I'm moving on to take care of myself or whatever, as if other people aren't awake yet. A lot of people are ready to be awakened, but they're not really awake yet. And that's why our greatest work is ahead, and that's why spread the word about Infowars.com, about naturalnews.com. It is, you know, that's why I like Mike Adams, because I've known him, you know, a few years now, interviewed him for many years, but he's been here in Austin for a while, gotten to know him. I can tell he's not an egomaniac or a crazy person. So many people,
good to hear.
So many people, myself included, I'm a little bit of a crazy person, but not an egomaniac. Living here, you know, working with other people, it's like they don't like tyranny, but they also kind of, it's like a, ooh, this is fun. We're like celebrities. This is not about that. This is about work. This is about research. It's about dedication. It's about doing the right thing. It's about not compromising in the face of fear.
You know, I'm like you. I'd rather be on my farm. I'd rather be literally planting potatoes or something. I'd rather be, I've got chickens out there. I've got donkeys out there. I'd rather be on a tractor. Frankly, practicing permaculture.
That's human. That's what you're supposed to do.
Well, yeah. I mean, you see what I drive. You know, you see what I wear. This is not an act. This is my ranch shirt as well. I mean, but I see you as the same way too. I see you as authentic. You know, behind the scenes, off the camera, you're the same guy that you portray yourself as.
Unfortunately.
Well, but that's, people want authenticity. They don't want a bunch of fakers up there. And people are tired of the fakers, you know? And if someone comes to my house and they look at my pantry or my kitchen, they're going to see me eating the same foods that I advise.
Well, I'll say this. You actually walk your walk. I'm still super unhealthy, but trying to get healthy. I've started to turn the ship. You know, it takes, all the stuff's addicting. Once you get deep into this evil food, you know.
You are doing fantastic, and your crew, too. Aaron back there, he looks
Aaron's
healthier.
lost like 50 pounds.
I see him, he looks better.
Well, pretty soon he's going to blow away, but he didn't look healthy.
Yeah. He's going to be on here like with Russian kettlebells and lifting weights pretty soon, probably. I mean, the guy. Well,
he actually listens to you and Ben Fuchs, and he actually put it into function. And I know I say 50 pounds. I mean, the guy, he was not super fat, but he was kind of like me, husky. You know, had a belly. It's all gone.
It's
and we even ordered food tonight, and he's like, well, no, I've got my own food, and he drank your, and not that our stuff wasn't healthy, it was Cabo Bob's, but, I mean, he kind of drank your juicing you gave him. Yeah. And by the way, I like the fact you've got your whole trough there. You're saving that for your donkeys.
Yeah.
What's left to give the whole office juice?
That's right. Nothing goes to waste. We made the juice for your crew, and then we take the pulp back. Going to give that to the donkeys or the chickens tonight. If I didn't have animals like that, I would compost it, right, and put it in the garden.
Those are some healthy animals, I bet.
They're really healthy, yeah. The donkeys are rescue donkeys. We rescued them. I don't want to talk about what happened to them before because it's not kind.
That sounds kind of Al-Qaeda-ish.
Yeah, I guess.
No, but so they were all locked up, not getting fed.
They had been beaten, basically. Someone had beaten these donkeys, and they were scared of humans. And it took us months before they would even approach us. And now we can be right next to them. We can pet them. We can touch them. But it's just a little microcosm of what's going on in the world.
I love donkeys. They're such sweet creatures. Little ears.
Ours are mischievous little. I'm telling you, they move stuff around on you. So you wake up the next morning and you thought you had a bucket over there or a trough over there, and now it's 600 yards away. That's the donkeys.
What are their names?
Jackson and Jennifer.
Well, they're smart.
Yeah. Yeah, they're smart donkeys. But thanks for having me on. I enjoy being here. I really support what you're doing, and we had a great segment. And
you know, donkeys are like a watchdog. You know, once you get them, they'll actually run off wolves, coyotes. Yeah. They'll actually, neigh or ninny or whatever it is a donkey does when people come around.
Yeah, they do. We have coyotes out there. We've got all kinds of creatures, owls and rattlesnakes and coyotes, and of course the wild feral pigs that are out there too. I've come across groups of 30 of those at a time.
You got to blast those. Those are a feral invasive species, and they'll take over. Those eat baby deer and stuff, you know, right?
Everybody else shoots them. Alex, I don't have the heart to shoot them, you know, but everybody else does. And I understand the reasons for doing.
Well, they're bad. I mean, obviously a pig's one of the smartest animals out there, but the thing is, they're out of control. Yeah, it's like a scourge of locust.
Clearly. But I just can't do that. I can shoot a rattlesnake if it's attacking our chickens. You know, that's for me. I can do that. But the pigs aren't hurting any of our animals. So I You know, if I were a cattle rancher, I'm sure I would have a different view on that.
They're going to attack your crops.
Well, we're gonna have a solar powered electric fences around our food to keep them out. Little zap reminder for those pigs.
That's not going to keep them out, Mike.
You're probably right, Alex. But
these things. These are. I mean, let me tell you, pigs are bad news.
I would only pull.
They're
the trigger
eating
as a
baby
last
deer.
resort.
No, I'm just saying it's an invasive. Get into real environmental stuff. They're an invasive species. There's tens of millions of them now.
They are,
and they just run around eating everything.
Totally. But I mean, that's my philosophy. Even on freedom, like I would only pull the trigger as a last resort, right? Even if it came to fighting for our freedom, you know, front lines, really doing battle. I mean, I would never want to harm another person, even a tyrant. I wouldn't want to kill them except as a last resort. You know.
And we're trying to avert that.
Exactly.
We're trying to wake up as many people. Then the enemy moves with tyranny. People will know what to do. Mike Adams, naturalnews.com. Get back to your wife and farm and Jennifer and Jackson.
All right.
That's their names, right?
That's their names.
All right, and I appreciate you coming in, brother.
Thank you, Alex. Good to be here.
Good to have you. All right, we're going to go to a quick break here, and then we're going to... Max is out there with a ridiculous thing from... No, we got pig noises going. What are you guys drinking out there? All right. I'm going to hit the lavatory for a minute. We got Alfred Adask coming up, always amazing for an hour and 20 minutes or so. And then we're going to continue with Texe Mars and others. But let's go to one of these reports that McBreen's done, or one of my reports, so I can say bye to Mike. And we're going to come back with Alfred Adask. Join us via video Skype. If you want to be part of the 4th annual Money Bomb, we're not like the government with a gun to your head saying, give us money, and we're not like the government. I was trying to paint earlier, but I can't really paint. We're going to paint some stuff for I painted some stuff for the eBay deal. There's some stuff up there, but again, if you want to donate to us, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, or the number, there's folks up there to take your calls. It's 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. You can either give to us to fight the globalist, or you can just have them take it away from you. But hey, I'm putting my life on the line here. I think you folks need to take action as well. And again, it doesn't mean donate to us. Make a film, start a local radio show, put out a newsletter, put out a local newspaper. Believe me, if I could do it when I was 21 years old, you can do it too. So stop thinking it's something extra special. You're Americans. You're free human beings. You can fight tyranny. Great job to the crew being part of this 27-hour transmission. Great job to all the people that have donated. And great job to all the people that are spreading the word about the free streams and everything we're doing at Infowars.com. We'll be right back with Alfred Adask.
Lazarus became with the ragtag band to bring a revolution. Some would make him king, others couldn't stand for that. The cross was a solution, but he rose again. Wise men follow him, but he rose again. Wise men follow him. Thank God for the renegades and the lives they lead. Far ahead of their time. Without the renegades, Lord knows where we'd be. When it comes to heroes, renegades are mine. The crown, another ragtag band declaring independence. Laid their bodies down on a bloody war and liberty for their descendants. Thanks to the renegades, free today. Thanks to the renegades, we're free today. Thank God for the renegades and the lives they lead. Far ahead renegades are mine. When it comes to heroes, renegades are mine.
Tyranny is here. The grim future foretold in 1984 has become reality.
It really says that the state is God.
The United States is now recognized globally as one of the most oppressive police states on Earth. This film conclusively proves the existence of a secret network of FEMA camps, now being expanded nationwide. This documentary exposes how the continuity of government program has established an all-powerful shadow state. Police State 4 chronicles the sickening depths to which our republic has fallen. Prepare to enter the secretive world of emergency dictatorship, body scanners, sound cannons, citizen spies, stage terror, and cameras on every street corner. It's only the beginning of the New World Order's hellish plan. The police state isn't coming. It's here. Secure your copy today at Infowars.com or see it online in the highest quality at PrisonPlanet.tv.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
I've got good news pouring in and news coming up and your phone calls after Alfred Adask leaves us. In fact, we'll take calls while he's on with us for the next hour and 15 minutes or so. Fox News, Santa Cruz woman fights smart meters and win. And they're really spy meters. They admit now they even scan and know what you're watching on television. That's mainstream news. These are high-tech spy grids. They've got data over power line. They're tracking us. They've built a total technocratic system of control. We're fighting it. And we're doing a 27-hour transmission here with a few breaks from my live broadcasting with other live folks like Mike Adams here for the last 2 hours. We have got Texe Mars coming up, Jim Mars coming up, Gerald Celente, great job with the crew, lining all these folks up. Now, I didn't do a pre-interview with Alfred Adask, and the last 2 interviews, he's a great guy. He's absolutely on target about the elite and their own legal filings saying we're animals and they're humans, and so we deserve to be treated like this. That's the globalist eugenicist program. And then when he did the TV show with Aaron, he covered that. And it's fine if he does that preface, you know, his research, but I want to pick his brain about the larger agendas and fighting this system in the spirit of fighting, because he's such an articulate, really powerful person, powerful spirit of liberty, and he's right here hailing from up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area as well. So many great resistance fighters against dehumanization coming from the great state of Texas. Not that people that peopled Texas were perfect, but they certainly were rebels against tyranny. You know, of course, my family goes way back to the founding of Texas and Texas lore. So ridiculously Texan, I won't even go over it all. It sounds like a storybook. And my family goes back on both sides of the Mayflower, including the captain of the Mayflower, and Miles Standish and others. But, you know, this is what America's all about. And that's why the globalists have come here and taken it over, because this engine of liberty, not perfect, but the greatest example of liberty compared to any other country, this created great wealth and power. So the parasites came here to take it over. And Alfred Adask joins us. We'll give you his website and more. Alfred, in a nutshell, joining us via video Skype, tell us about yourself, your journey, your awakening, your basic fact on the legal filings, hundreds of times you've discovered where we are described as animals. And then let's get into the nature of the New World Order, their end game, what you see happening in the world. And then we'll, coming up in about 30 minutes or so, open the phones up. In fact, I'll open them now. Here's the toll-free number for folks to line up to talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. Again, that's 877-789-2539 or 877-789-ALEX, and we'll get you up and on the air, or local calls, 512-646-1776. Alfred Adask, great to have you with us.
Hi, Alex. I thank you for that. It's a pretty flattering introduction. Probably a little more exaggeration there than it needs to be.
Total bull. I can feel your soul of liberty.
Well, that's powerful is not necessarily that word. I don't know that one applies. But I'm dedicated to what I'm doing. I've been at it for 28 years, and what started me was a divorce back in 1983, and I lost custody of my children. in what I regarded as a great injustice, and that's what started me on the path. Up until then, my background was about 25 years construction work. I had a little roofing business at the point in time when this broke loose, and I became a student of the legal system. I thought I'd correct that injustice on the child custody battle. I never did. But once you got into it, it just seemed to take you, you just move and move from one thing to another, and next thing you know, I was published in a magazine called The Anti-Shyster and doing little radio programs, and I don't know, you get into it, and what else, it becomes an obsession. You can't lay it down. It's one of these things, I know you've got the same problem, and I heard you were talking in the previous segment, where you'd like to be able to kind of go out to the ranch for a while, all right, and just watch the donkeys or whatever. Pretty hard to do. Once you get into this, I don't know that you can walk away. I don't even know that you can relax. And I have the same thing. There's part of me, I would like nothing better to go out and do some surf fishing. I'd like to be living on a beach where I could just go out there, just, cast out and catch a couple of fish and the rest of that, cook them up for dinner. The idea of breaking loose from this obsession, this calling, all right? Well, it's attractive, but I don't believe I could do it. And I doubt that you can either. You can get out on that, you can get that ranch if you want to, but you'll be back, you understand, and probably not very long. I think the most recent thing, you mentioned it before, and the most important thing, became involved in a lawsuit in 2006. I was added as the last of 7 defendants in a case that involved the manufacture and distribution of a controlled substance. The controlled substance was colloidal silver, but it's the same law that they would apply with heroin and cocaine, and it's a part of the drug laws. It was a civil prosecution by the Attorney General of the state of Texas, and they added me as a defendant. I was fiduciary for a trust. The trust was a defendant. They made me a defendant, and they're suing every defendant, including me, for $25,000 a day. That's $9 million a year. I guarantee I don't have that kind of money. And it sharpens your attention quite a bit to be sued for that, especially by the Attorney General of the state of Texas. I started reading the relevant law, and I'm a student of the Bible, and I have an understanding of the Declaration of Independence and fundamental principles, and I was just shocked. I read the law, and the definition of drugs presumes the people to be animals. And when I first saw the language, I thought, my God, these damn fools, they don't even know what they're writing. And then I saw it a second time. And then I saw it 2 more times in the federal law. First I found it in the Texas law, then I found it in the federal law, and we found it in 23 separate laws and regulations that applied in our case. And it's abundantly clear that the government has been treating the people as animals. This is the foundation of our war on drugs. The war on drugs laid the foundation for much of the modern police state. The police state gave us the prison industrial complex. And all of this is balanced on a couple of little definitions of drugs and medical devices that presume the people to be animals. We traced this back. We found it in 5 states besides Texas and the federal law. I presume it's true in all 50 states. The earliest instance we can find of this is 1906 in the Pure Food and Drug Act. First time that we've been able to find that they first referred to the people as animals. They've been doing this for a century. You understand? This isn't a new thing. This isn't something that just happened in the last, couple of years. They have been regarding the people as animals for a century. We found it in Title VII, which is the Code of Agriculture. They define animals to include human men and women. Again, we found it in Title 28 relative to drug laws and medical devices. And I don't know where else it exists, but the fact that it exists anywhere is intolerable because... And this was the basis of our defense. I drafted a defense, again, student of the Bible. I understand that at Genesis 1:26-28, it says, on the 6th day, God created man in his image and gave man dominion over the animals. My Bible says that I can't be an animal. And I've got a constitution that has a First Amendment that says you can't interfere with my freedom of religion. So if you've got a law that says I'm an animal and I've got a Bible that says no, I'm not, guess what? You got a problem. You can't make that stand in court. And for what it's worth, so far as I know, I'm the first man in a century to read that law and realize what it meant. Certainly the first layman, there's probably been, I'm sure there have been a handful of lawyers and politicians who understood it, but most people, they don't even read the law and understand what it means. We drafted a religious freedom defense. The Attorney General went dead silent for 5 months, and then they came back, spent 5 months trying to settle a case, and then they just dropped the case after investing $500,000 in 6 years on pretrial investigations and hearings. So it's not a victory that you get chalked up in the record book, but we beat them, and we beat them with religious freedom. And it's important for this reason. It's not just an anomaly. There are people that are concerned about Obamacare, for example. Obamacare can be stopped with this same idea. Obamacare, I guarantee you, all of modern medicine in this country involves either drugs or medical devices. And both of those definitions presume the people to be animals. There is no medicine in this country, at least not licensed medicine, that doesn't presume you and me to be nothing but livestock. From the government's perspective, we're right up there with Jason and Jenny, or whatever the two names of the donkeys were from your previous guests. Just livestock. And based on that presumption, they can mistreat us, they can oppress us, they can push us around, they can do whatever they want, because we are not deemed to be men and women made in God's image. All of this is evidence of spiritual warfare. This is not just politics, it's not just law. This is evidence of something that's been, in my opinion, been going on for thousands of years. And we are now we're catching glimpses of it. We begin to see, yeah, same thing's going on now that was going on several thousand years ago. It's been going on since Old Testament times. And ultimately, it involves your relationship with the God of the Bible. That's what this is ultimately all about. If you are an animal, you're not made in God's image. If you are an animal, you are not endowed by your Creator with certain unalienable rights as declared in the Declaration of Independence. They are trying to get us to turn our back on those God-given unalienable rights, pretty much the same way Esau was encouraged to turn his back on the birthright that he received when he was first born. Jacob talked him into trading his birthright for a bowl of pottage. And later in the Bible, God says twice, he says 2 different times in the Bible, he says, Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated. I've never seen an explanation of why God hates Esau. But I think the reason he hates Esau is because Esau turned his back on his birthrights. That was a function. He was the first one out of the womb. He got the birthright, presumably, so this extends. This is an act of God's will.
And he waved his right. Alfred, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to talk about birthrights. I just got a call from Jesse Ventura, and I talked to Ty. Jesse was on yesterday. I'm good friends with him. Jesse, as you know, former Minnesota governor, sued over the fact, and I've flown with him, I've witnessed it. I was probably going to be a witness, by the way, to them grabbing his genitals and squeezing on him. And Ron Paul has said this has been done to him as well. He has said that he deserves his day in court. The federal judge, after waiting 4 months to rule, AP, Pioneer Press, Twin Cities reports, U.S. District Court, Ventura suit over certs tossed. I got the call, and they said, we're going to have a press conference at noon tomorrow Central, and then they're going to be on the show because he promised to give us the first interview after the press conference if this happened. But then they were like, wait till tomorrow. And then I Googled it while I was talking to him, and I said, no, it's hit the news as of 8:44 Central. So we're talking 12 minutes ago. But here's this example. Now the TSA is saying they're going to be on the streets of America. So while you were talking, I normally would listen. I saw Ventura's call and took it. We're all in this fight together. But, I mean, they are setting this precedent. They're now announcing checkpoints on the streets, lamp posts that listen to you, hands down the pants everywhere, telescreens saying don't trust your neighbors, FEMA takeovers of media. It's as if hell is breaking loose. But I agree with what you said a few months ago when you were on. I want to hear you elaborate on this. But talk about TSA. I want you to talk about TSA. I've got the biblical stuff. We've covered that 3 or 4 times. People got it. It's powerful, Alfred. It's at the core of this. You've covered the root. But now the fruits of this, we're looking at this right now. I agree with you. They want soft power. They want soft takeover. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the law to take vaccines, but now people won't take them. They're trying to make it the law. when they start forcing things is a sign of weakness, not strength. Right. But what do you make of this federal security force, this TSA, this domestic defense martial law system? Why is it all in high gear right now? What is the elite doing from Alfred Adask view right now that's got all this in high gear?
I think they're desperate. I think they understand that time is running out. There was a situation where Zygmunt Brzezinski, if I recall correctly, I believe
last year.
Yeah, this goes back before that. This was while Bush was still in office, and he became ensnared in the war in Iraq. And Zygmunt Brzezinski, he was critical of Bush, and he said, "My God, you've set the New World Order back 20 years."
No, you're right. That was about 6-7 years ago, and then he said again last year, the New World Order is losing.
Yeah, they're running out of time. See, they were going to just kind of ease us into this over the course of the next 20 years or so, and they understand they're running out of time, and I think they're desperate to try to make something happen here in the next little while. And we're headed for a big conflict in a relatively short period of time, but it's encouraging to know that they are desperate. If they're running this thing right, they shear the sheep, and the sheep don't even know they've been sheared. Nobody complains. Right now they've got things like the Occupy Wall Street movement taking place around the world. They've had the Tea Party movement in 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago. The evidence is, they've got the internet, and they've got programs like yours, they've got blogs, they've got people. I mean, there's a study I saw just lately that something like 90% of the people don't trust the government. You can't run this scam if the people don't trust you. It's the whole idea behind running a confidence game. People have to have confidence in the con artist. They have to have confidence in the people that run the con game. People don't trust the government. They can't run this thing except by force. And ultimately, I don't believe they have enough force to pull it off. They can run it by deception and ensnare everyone, and that's what they've been doing.
Yeah, but once you're aware of the hat trick, once you know a magician is running a scam, game over.
Yeah, I agree. Now there's nothing left other than to try to force people into compliance, and apparently someone's made a decision to try to do that, but I don't think they can pull it off. I think they're going to see so much resistance from outfits like Anonymous, for example, hacking into computers and whatever.
Well, take Jesse Ventura. I mean, he's a regular guy, and I've been around him personally. He is genuinely pissed. He called. He said if Ron Paul's kept out of the debates, we should have revolts in the street. You know, it's like we want peace, but like 1776, these tyrants keep pushing. Yeah. They have no idea that good people are 10 times more powerful than evil. I mean, there's no bully can stand up to a pissed-off good person.
They don't think that we can do it. They are so, the people that are in positions of power are there because they believe in power.
Well, look at that sack of shit. Look at that sack of shit, Janet Napolitano. I'm sorry to talk like that, but there's no other word in the English language to describe her. Look at that sack of shit, thinking she can run our lives and take our liberties and our freedoms and molest our children. I mean, she is a pathetic bucket of crap. I'm sorry, Alfred, to talk like that.
I get it. I understand. But those are the kinds of people that are attracted to power because they believe in it. And I don't think, in their mind, I think they have a hard time conceiving that the power is insufficient to control. But the fundamental issue ultimately is not power, it's consent. You've got to get the people to consent to whatever you're doing. We saw this in the Vietnam War when they tried to draft everyone and send them off to Vietnam, and it motivated. It was the compulsory military service that motivated the riots and the demonstrations. People said, hell no, we won't go. All right, right now we're seeing something like that in Greece, where we've got a different kind of compulsion. They're trying to compel the Greek people to pay this enormous debt, and the Greek people are simply saying, hell no, we won't pay. We're seeing some of that even in the Occupy Wall Street. People are just saying, look, we are withdrawing our consent.
That's right. All the globalist fluoride, all the brainwashing, once that veneer of control peels back, it's the animalistic liberty lovers that the globalist vampires are so scared of.
Yeah, I agree. And as people, again, people are losing their consent. They are refusing to consent to government, and it just puts so much sand in the gears. Government depends on their ability to con, deceive, and mislead the people. And That's being just eradicated by internet, by radio programs like yours and so on. It's the people are just sitting back and say, wait a second, this is a bunch of crap, and I'm not going along with it. And now what? The government, there's only about 0.3% of the population that are police officers. And there's only about 0.3% of the population that are in the military. And if they bring them all back, they're still outnumbered close to 150, 200 to 1.
Alfred, let me stop you. My wife was watching. Our video stream is so good, it's in real time. She called up. My children are watching when I made that comment. And it's desperate of me. I'm not somebody in private who even uses profanity, but I don't have words to describe Janet Napolitano, so I apologize to my wife and children, everybody else's children. I will not do that again tonight. It's just at a certain point, I look at this criminal, this person that shipped tens of thousands of guns into Mexico, drugs into the U.S., it's come out in court, and they don't get in trouble, and it's more of a ghost dance. It's a desperate, there's no words to describe how demonic these people are. And so I apologize for the using non-King's English there. It's just at a certain point, Alfred, don't you ever just want... Did you see all the videos of Libya with the kids with their jaws blown off and their tongues hanging out, and
no,
little kids
I haven't
begging
seen them all, that's for sure, but I understand that was just another atrocity. I mean,
that is haunting me now. I mean, I must fight these people. I cannot have this in my name, Alfred. You know that point where you go even beyond fear, and it just becomes like you're only afraid of yourself, like controlling yourself?
I understand. I'll tell you, you reach a point where what I've come to understand is that your fear is inversely proportional to your faith. You can look at Revelation 21:8, and it's got a laundry list of sins that will get you condemned to damnation. And it includes the sorcerers and the murderers and the liars and the whoremongers and so on. The top of the list, it says in some versions, cowardly, in other versions, those who fear. And the reason is because your fear is inversely proportional to your faith. When you really grab hold of faith and you really get the idea that God is real, and it's not just a little game, and it's not, when you really get it, what do you got to fear? Now, my fear is, I still have a certain amount of fear. My faith is not perfect, but nevertheless, you grab onto that faith, and when you really begin to understand it, you become pretty close to fearless. And if you can get perfect faith, then I assume you can get, you can achieve absolute fearlessness. But it's also...
Okay, well, here's my problem, Alfred. I am fearless, except I realize my fearlessness actually makes me weak at a certain point because I am fearless. And then I realize that's almost reckless. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. I understand it. It's a fine line. Well, from my perspective, I mean, without knowing you well enough to say one way or another, you have to make up your mind whether you are fearless, from my perspective, in service to what the good Lord wants done, or you're just fearless in a secular and earthly sense, in which case, that may be reckless. You better have a lot of judgment to back that up, because there's some battles that are, you don't want to step into the ring with Mike Tyson unless fearless is not enough to step in with.
No, I'm not going to step in the ring with him unless I've got a .357 Magnum.
Yeah, I understand.
No, I mean, at a certain point, they're poisoning the food, the water, and we've got to break out of the trance and say, it's over, scum. I'm done. I see you, and I want to bring you down.
Well, you mentioned you talked to someone. You used the word satanic, or I believe you're referencing people that are in government. It's not just hyperbole. It really is spiritual warfare. That's what we are dealing with, and it took me a long time to understand that. And I know, 15 years ago, people talked to me about it, and I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I get it now. That's what this is. This is spiritual warfare. And it's an important concept because most of the people in this country at least pay lip service to the God of the Bible. And you can take their homes and their cars and their kids and their cash, and they won't do much about it. But you mess with their faith, if they understand that you are messing with their faith, they will come after you. There is no war like holy war. And if people can be made to understand the spiritual foundation for the conflict that's going on between ourselves and the government right now, and that it is diabolical. It's not an accident. We look at them in a secular sense. Well, it's not diabolical. Yeah, it is. That's what it is. And once you get
Of course it's diabolical. It's diabolical, diabolical, diabolical. These people are doing it to watch the world burn. It's the journey is the trip. And when you realize they're not giving us quarter, they're not backing off, they don't have some goal of even power. It's all about destruction and pain, and they will not give up. They must be met. They must be faced. We must commit to resist them, period. And when you realize they're a bunch of chicken neck scum, that's what's even more pathetic, it's like watching a little bitty dog dominate some giant, powerful dog. It's such an aberration of the order of the universe. The universe and justice cries out for these enemies of humanity to be brought low.
I agree. But you want to bring them low, you got to get people, from my perspective, help people understand this is spiritual warfare. They'll stand up and fight for spiritual warfare. Again, take the kids, take the car, take the cash, take the house, take all of it. They'll complain, but they aren't necessarily going to fight. Mess with their faith, and you're going to have a war on your hands. And it's the one thing the government fears, in my opinion. I mean, they don't want to mess with the people's faith, not overtly, because they know it's an explosive,
it's more than faith, as you said, it's in our gut. But I mean, my issue here is that these people, they are trafficking in men's souls. I think it's a lie to say the root of all evil is the love of money. That's how they sell out unconscious people. They create this money out of nothing. It's all debt-based. The more they create, the more you're in debt. When you get to high-level Illuminati, they are about the souls of men. Revelation says they trafficked in the souls of men. They want your mind. They want your soul. They want your intellect. That's what they want. That's what they want.
What they want is you to consent to your own destruction. They want you to step up. Satan can come down here and put a gun to my head and pull a trigger right now, and it does him no good. All right? It's not enough for him to kill me. It doesn't matter. If I'm right with the good Lord, I'm going to a good place. What he has to do is entice me into voluntarily turning my back on God. That's the objective. If I will abandon my birthright, if I will voluntarily say, well, I don't need that, in the same way that Esau did, say, hey, I don't need the birthright, just give me that bowl of pottage. If they can persuade an individual, if they can persuade a nation to abandon those God-given unalienable rights, then you may be, by that voluntary act, you may open the door where you can stroll right down into Hades. On the other hand, if you're prepared to stand up and say, hell no, I won't go, they have another problem. They need your consent. Force is counterproductive for them, really. They can't capture souls by force. They have to get consent. But
Alfred Adask, give us the website.
Adask, ADASK.wordpress.com.
I'm the same way. I'm just like you. I grew up going to Baptist churches. I had a relationship with God. But I know God's real. But when I was younger, it wasn't part of my life when I was a teenager. But the more I study the world and history, these globalists, they know about the spiritual. Yep. They're obsessed with it. This is a spiritual battle. This is otherworldly. This is not just man against man. There is an evil force guiding and manipulating this.
I agree. And I harp on that story about me getting tangled up with the Attorney General down there in Texas. We stopped him. You understand? He'd invested 6 years and nearly $500,000, and we stopped him with a religious freedom defense. It's evidence that the system respects this.
No, the Hopi are allowed to take
mumbo jumbo.
Listen, the Hopi are allowed to take mescaline. I mean, when it gets down to religious, that's one thing the Illuminati bow to, because they've got to trick you to serve them, and they can't run over that. You're right. It's this religious statement is the most powerful because it's universal galactic law.
That's exactly right. So the question is, just got to get people to begin to understand it. And it took me a long time. It doesn't happen overnight. But you start and you come to knowledge eventually, or you come to understanding. It takes time. But and it's one of those things where I don't think I think you're already drawn to it. I think in some degree, I think some people are already drawn to this, whether they've ever heard of it before or not. It resonates with them. Their soul's been looking for it, and they'll catch on. They just need somebody to show them, yeah, that's what's happening. And, you know, one of the most important things, we used to have meetings in Dallas, and people were afraid. Those meetings were successful in large measure because after I got the meeting started, I'd go to the back of the room, sit at the back of the audience, and when the speaker, whoever was the guest, he'd start speaking, I would make it my business. I'm paying attention, and whenever he had an important line, he made a memorable line, or a memorable statement, I'd start clapping my hands, all right? And the rest of the people in the audience would sit there, and they were afraid. But if you persisted at clapping your hands, then they'd start too. They are scared to death to stand up alone, all right? And they are afraid to be the first one to clap their hands. But if you clap, if one person will clap and persist in clapping, eventually other people stand up and say, well, I can clap too. And then they are empowered. They get a sense of communion. They get a sense of community. They begin to realize, my God, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one who thinks this is important information. All by itself. It's powerful, powerful stuff. It's part of the reason the meetings grew to where we had the biggest legal reform group in the country there by 1996. It had to do with just something as simple as clapping your hands.
And you put out the Anti-Shyster, right?
Yeah, for 12 years.
Was it Anti-Shyster? Didn't I write some articles for you? I can't remember now.
No, I don't believe I've ever published anything from you in the Anti-Shyster.
What was the other magazine?
Well, I changed the name, and I regret doing it, but I did change the name to Suspicions for the last...
No, there was some other magazine. I remember Vic Vreeland. He was the guy who came up, I came up with the idea, Infowars.com. Okay. But he came up with the idea because there's a war on for your mind. He was a retired firefighter, great guy, Air Force guy here in Austin. I think he still lives around here. I got to meet up with him. But I know he liked your stuff then. This was like in '97. I knew you had the Anti-Shyster, but there was another Patriot magazine at the time.
Well, there was...
Media Bypass.
Media Bypass, that's exactly right.
That was Media Bypass. Now, I remember I wrote a few articles for Media Bypass.
Yeah, that's it.
And then that article got to the Austin American-Statesman, and they actually admitted there were special forces, helicopters, and all these drills. I want to go to calls. The number is 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. People always complain by the time I mention the number. They haven't written it down because normally my own studio is a different number than the regular weekday radio show, but it's 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. But Alfred, all I know is I go off my gut and my spirit. And when I talk to you, A, what you're saying is historically right from my own research. B, I feel good when I'm talking to you. I feel, you know, the strength of research, and I feel a bond that you're connected in to the Most High. And when I get into this whole thing of fearlessness, my fear is that I'm so bold and so reckless against the enemy because we're attacking him hardcore. I mean, the stuff going on behind the scenes is insane. But then I realize, well, God's in charge. It's just that then I think, well, if I was more, you know, wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove or whatever, we'd get more done. It's just hard to try to balance it. But you know what? I'm just going with it, and that's the end of it.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
You got to trust in the Lord. And, you know, if you're doing the Lord's will, you know, if it's time for me to go, I don't have an objection. If somebody wants to come up, put a gun to my head and the rest of that sort of thing, pull the trigger. I've had plenty of life. I'd like to get some more and the rest of that, but in and of itself, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of dying badly and stupidly.
No, me neither. Exactly. I'm scared of failing. That's it. I'm scared of dying badly and not continuing my work. That's my only fear.
Yeah. Well, me too. It's like, it's hard to understand. I really feel like I've been called by the good Lord to do this. And it wasn't something I was looking for. I didn't start out as a holy roller.
No, I remember 15 years ago, I wasn't even religious.
No, same thing with me. Pretty much the same thing with me. It was just a casual thing. But you get dragged into this kicking and screaming, whether you like it or not. I don't know. Once you get that, you believe you're called. You don't have any choice. You do it. I'm going to do this until the day I die. That's just virtual certainty. There's no retirement. I'm not planning on retiring. I may have to live in poverty or whatever, but that doesn't disturb me. I'm going to do this. Good Lord, He will present opportunities, and if it's only to talk to one person, sometimes that's all you get. I'll talk to 500, maybe only reach one. Good enough. Good enough. My job is to scatter the seeds. Kind of like Johnny Appleseed. I'm not in charge of making sure the seeds grow. I'm not in charge of harvesting the apples. I may not even get to eat any of the apples. But I am in charge of spreading some of those seeds around, and I intend to do so to the limit of my ability. You know, good Lord. And I like it. It's a great life. You know, you pay a price for this. It wears you down and it wears you out, and there's a price to be paid. And yet, can you imagine another life you'd rather have than the one you've got right now?
No, there's nothing more fulfilling than serving life.
Nothing. I'm doing exactly what the good Lord wants me to do. I am doing exactly what I was meant to do. I'm pleased. I live better than most people can imagine. And I have next to nothing, but I guarantee, I know I'm living better than most people can understand. And it's hard to communicate, but I know you get that.
No, I know. No. Sometimes I say, God, I can't understand this understanding. I can't deal with this discernment. I'm just a blob. I have this thing of like, I'm in dirty rags. Why am I being given all this knowledge, this understanding? How do I know the next thing they're going to say on the news? How do I know what they're going to do next? How are you giving? Why me? It's almost in the brain burning with awakening and understanding. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, I'm absolutely talking about it. I mean, there is no one more mystified. If anybody sits out there and they say, hey, this guy thinks he's been called by God, and they can sit back and make fun of me. Believe me, I make fun of myself on one level. It is hard for me to believe, as hard as it might be for other people to believe. Why is God calling me? There's a bunch of better people than me. I mean, I get that. It's not just false humility. I mean, I am.
But Alfred, God has called you because you're humble.
Well, I am now, and the rest of that sort of thing. I don't know why he's called me. I mean, it's one of those things, but there's not a doubt in my mind that he has. All right, good enough for me. I don't need to know why. I don't need to know why. All I need to do is try to figure out what direction does he want me to go in right now, and it's not always clear. You know, I kind of think he wants me to head off in this direction. Is that right? You know, and I'm kind of, is that right?
That's what happens. God gives you discernment, and then you're standing there going, you've just given me all this understanding. I'm just this feeble human. What, I mean, and then you look at the globalists serving evil. They're like these demonic pygmies standing around a bucket of disease, worshiping it, and you're like, why are they doing that? Yeah. You know, it's like, as humble as we are, what are these devil worshipers doing? What have they given into? What is the point?
Well, for one thing, evil is a lot easier than good. And part of the reason for that is that lies are nice and compact and tight. And you can put a lie into a nice, tight little package. But when you start talking about the truth, you start talking about the truth of an orange. And as soon as you start talking about the truth of an orange, you are soon talking about the color orange. And now you're in spectrum of light. And pretty soon you're into physics and you're into photons and the rest of this sort of thing. The truth is almost endless. It's everything. But the lies are little tight, compact packages. And
truth is the universe. Truth is reality. Truth is powerful. And the evil aren't ready to stand in that fulcrum.
That's exactly right. Evil is easy. I mean, it's easy, it's simple, it's easy to understand, it's the truth. That's where you're wandering around and you say, what am I supposed to do now? Because it's so big. And the more you see, the more there is to see. At least that's an opinion I have.
No, this is the most powerful radio I've ever done. You're absolutely right. My entire life is like, whoa, if the public could see this, the discernment, the levels, the endlessness, and then you see the evil. They run the temporal world, but they literally are these stunted, pathetic creatures, and then you don't even hate them. You realize they're slaves.
Yeah, I know. And they're pathetic in their own way. They think they're getting over. And all they're doing is condemning themselves to damnation. I mean, it is stupid. It's self-destructive. It's hard to understand. What do you say? You know, it's dangerous. It's challenging.
But you know, Alfred, God doesn't want some candy-butted, good old boy who claims they're like a Pharisee up on the mountain. God's looking for people like Alfred Adask and others that are out there watching tonight, looking for real men, real women, God's actually looking for people that have been worldly. God's looking for people that have actually seen the dark side and want the good. And you've got to just open the door. Christ is knocking, you got to open it. Alfred, what's your point on opening the door? People say, well, I don't have this intellect. I can never grasp this. Folks, it's not your intellect. You open your level, you open your mind to this spiritual information, it's over.
That's exactly right. It has, and you know what it has to do with, a lot of what it has to do with? It has to do with trusting yourself. And I don't mean that in an egotistical sense, but so many people are fearful. Yes, your gut, your common sense, you look at something and something inside you says, that's wrong. And everybody else is doing it. And it looks like they're having a party. And it looks like it's a lot of fun. You look at it and say, no, that's wrong. You have to learn to go with that inside that's telling you what to do, rather than just following the herd, because most of them are just following because they're scared to death to trust their own judgment. Part of this, in my opinion, you got to learn to trust yourself. You got to begin to realize the good Lord gave you eyes, he gave you ears, he gave you sufficient intelligence to deal with the problems he's going to handle you or hand to you. If you're going to just follow the herd out of fear, though, and try to conform, you know, from my perspective, again, you got that story of Esau coming back.
That way leads to destruction.
You're back on the birthright. I think so too. That's what I think.
Well, Alfred, we're definitely on the same wavelength. I want to take some phone calls here in the last 37 minutes before Texe Mars joins us. But in the next 4 or 5 minutes, anything else that's on your heart to add and give to this audience that's watching us across the world right now?
Well, I don't know that I've got anything in particular. When you asked me to be on the program, I asked what were we going to talk about, and I talked to Jaron, I think, and he said, "Oh, we'll just talk generally about whatever's going on in the world." And
yeah, we just say we're talking. Yeah, it's not like a
All right. Well, it's anything else that's ringing my bell right now? I don't know. Third party. There's one. I have in mind to create a third party. All right, and I've had this in mind for several years, and I haven't had much success, and most people think that a third party is an impossible thing. It's just foolishness. But first, look at the mathematics. In a typical election, half the people who are eligible to vote don't vote. In an off-year election, 60% of the people who are eligible to vote don't vote. It means in an off-year election, for example, you only need the active support in a two-party election. You only need the active support of 21% of the people. Only 40% are voting. So you only need 21% to be elected, less than 1 in 4. If you had a viable third party, the odds would go down to something like 13, 14%. A viable third party that could attract 13, 14% of the support of the potential voters in this country could potentially take this country back in an off-year election. Number goes up some when you get into a presidential election, but it's still a small number. 1 in 5 is more than enough to take this country back with a viable third party. When you think about it, it's powerful and it's important because we are not being overwhelmed. We're not being defeated by the big battalions. We can take this whole country back with 1 in 5, and I guarantee you probably 60% of the country agrees with the kinds of ideas that you've put out on your program and I put out on my blog and little programs I do and so on. I'll bet you 60% of them are sympathetic to what we're talking about. We need only 1 in 5. The second point of this part of this third party, the party platform would be the Declaration of Independence. There would be no argument. There'd be no additional planks in the platform. Declaration of Independence. 1, we get our rights from God. 2, the principal business of government is to secure those God-given unalienable rights. Use that Declaration of Independence, then there's no infighting. No party infighting as to what we should have on the planks of the party. Use the Declaration of Independence. It's got everything we need is there.
Well, I want to bring up another point, Jim. We're going to phone calls. Sean, Tripp, Jeff, JT, Keith, Ben, and a whole bunch of others that are holding. Alfred, look at Ron Paul. He came out and said, well, if I don't win the Republican nomination, I may run third party. He recognizes that it's about taking the field, injecting real issues, win, lose, or draw, we win. But
and it's entirely possible right now. It isn't even, I mean, given the internet, it can happen like that. If
people believe in it, if they believe we have power.
If you can motivate people,
it's all up to them. Whatever they believe we can do. Listen, Alfred, I told George Noory this, the other guest tonight. I mean, I go to like Arkansas, California, Las Vegas. I mean, I was there doing a Jesse Ventura's TV show a week and a half ago. Every five, six people I walk by were listeners. I mean, that's power. Not that Alex Jones has power, that they recognize me and say they're listeners shows our numbers are huge.
Exactly right. They're waiting. They're waiting. They're waiting. I mean, this is the sort of thing that I can't do on my own, but I'm telling you, I have thought about this on this third party. It can happen almost overnight. The only thing that's required is you got to get people to sign up to be candidates before the end of this year. The big obstacle for a third party is to get them on the ballot. In Texas, you need 50,000 signatures, at least the last time I checked the law. They have to be rounded up April, May of next year. You have about 6 weeks. Almost impossible to do with small numbers. But if you could get 500 to 1,000 people who committed and said, yes, I'll run for dog catcher. Another guy says, I'll run for state senator. I'll run for city council. You get 500 to 1,000 people. If you had 1,000 people who were willing to run for office, they would be the people who would gather the signatures
Alfred,
you need. They need 50
when you run
a piece.
When you run for office, you educate people. Look, it's resistance is victory. Saying no to this system and standing up against it is the answer. I want to go to some of these phone calls. You ready?
Go ahead.
Sean in Missouri, you're first up. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex, Alfred. I just, first of all, want to thank you both. You're true heroes to me, and I appreciate what you're doing for our country. And on a personal level, I really appreciate what I feel like you're doing for my children and their future. My question for you is, I've listened to Alex for many years now, and maybe I've missed it, but my question is, what is the tipping point? I don't live in the city, I live out in the country. What is the tipping point where you draw the line? Is it when they come and ask for your guns? Is it when they come to and demand that you vaccinate your children?
Well, if I can answer that, and then Alfred can, in Texas, in 1832 or 33, it was when they came to take the guns. In 1775, it was when they came to take the guns. In other places, it was when they came to take people's children for conscription. At a certain point, it's when they come to lay their hands on you. And that's what TSA is a ritual to put their hands all over you for forced inoculations, to train you that they're going to set up checkpoints. It's a federal martial law ritual to acclimate as many as they can. Alfred, what is the tipping point?
Tipping point is when the people, it isn't so much what the government does. It's when the people finally say enough. It's the government. The American Revolution was over a tax that was something like 2 or 3%. They were paying almost no taxes compared to what we do today. It wasn't a number so much what the government did. It's when the people just finally stand up and say, enough of this crap. And we're not so far from that. Again, Tea Party was a demonstration. We're close to that tipping point. The Occupy Wall Street movement and the fact that it's spread around the world indicates that we are close. The Arab Spring indicates that there is a sentiment in the world where people have had about enough of government. Now we're going to sit back and watch, and there's going to be an event. And it was kind of like the guy in Tunisia who set himself on fire. He finally just had enough, and he went out and he said, I can't deal with all this government regulation anymore, doused himself in gasoline, set himself on fire, and he precipitated the Arab Spring. Right? Something like that is going to happen.
And the globalists tried to steer it and control it, but they're still going to fail at the end of the day. And that's the issue, is that now is the time to warn people. Now is the time to identify the real enemy. Now is the time to talk about the New World Order, because all these people are awakening, but the globalists are going to try to misdirect them into false solutions. Caller, anything else?
Just want to make sure I kind of have it straight here. So you're saying, in your personal opinion, when they come and ask for the guns like they did during Katrina, that would be a time that would be worth saying no, and of course they'll insist on taking them anyway, and then that's when you're going to have, you feel that a Ruby Ridge type moment.
Here's the deal. We're, as Alfred said earlier, we're hurting them politically and with our speech, and like Gandhi, letting them abuse us is waking everybody up. I'm not looking for a fight. Anybody who's been in a real fight isn't looking for one. The point is, I'm trying to control myself not to get in the fight, because every minute we suck them in deeper is a closer to victory. But yes, that is your own personal moment. where you can't take anymore and you're being assaulted. Generally, it's about defense. You don't use this knowledge in attack. You're always stronger. I mean, take myself. I grew up in Dallas. I thought everybody got in fist fights every weekend. I moved down to Austin. Nobody gets in fist fights. I love it. I'm not looking for a fight. But I always learned every fight where somebody attacked me, it didn't matter if they were big and bad and the state wrestling champion. If they attacked me, I could kick their butt. The few fights I lost was when I got arrogant and got in a fight myself. I have no power when I'm on the offensive. When I'm on the defense, look out. I appreciate your call. Comments on that, Alfred?
The only thing I'd say is Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote the Gulag Archipelago, and he was talking about the prisoners in the Soviet concentration camps.
Oh, how they burned in the camps.
They were constantly debating when should they have stood up and fought. All right, at what point? Because if anyone, when they came in to arrest these people, if they knew there was someone standing behind the door with just a baseball bat, I guarantee that the government wouldn't come in. It was, when should they have resisted? It was a constant debate. Your callers, Sean, I believe his name is, he's facing that issue. Where is the tipping point? Nobody's got an answer for that. It'll be something that no one sees, understands, but all of a sudden it'll be like tinder. There'll be a spark, the tinder will explode, and everybody's going to say, oh my God, what's happening?
In fact, guys, pull up the Alexander Solzhenitsyn quote. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, How We Burned in the Camps, Pulitzer Prize winner, lived decades in a camp. Look, here's the deal. The key to guerrilla warfare, if it comes to that, guerrilla warfare, is do not wait in your place for them to come for you. If it ever comes to that point, you choose the battlefield, you choose the time. You don't even need a firearm. A butter knife can get you any weapon you need. We're not looking for that. Okay, let me be clear. But once that path is chosen, once the war path is there, then it's total victory. It's defeat of the satanic globalist. Alfred?
Yeah. I mean, part of the problem, what Sean needs to do right now, you keep your eyes and ears open. I don't know what the tipping point's going to be, but recognizing we're getting closer to that tipping point, your obligation is to prepare yourself. That's where you are right now. Be prepared. Be prepared. Learn, study, understand the moral foundation for what you're doing. Understand the technical foundation. What do you need for firearms, or what do you need in order to litigate? Be prepared.
Exactly. We've got a lot of avenues to fight right now. Before you even think about physical action as some solution, it's way down the road. Pirate FM, local newsletters, going to city council, speaking out. Those are the things we need to use now, because believe me, it's easy to talk about violence. It's primitive, it's simple, it's quick. That's not the road to victory. We first have to get our word out and try to avert this peacefully.
I agree.
What I'm after, I just want to think it through so that when the moment happens that I'm steadfast, I'm not ready to compromise. Because what if they had a false flag terror tomorrow, and then boom, all of a sudden the town's on lockdown, they're coming around, hey, we need to get your guns because it's dangerous out here. That's the kind of stuff I'm worried about. I'm thinking, okay, is this the moment, or do I go ahead and hand this over because maybe they'll lift off the ban tomorrow?
Well, that's why they want a registration. You can hand them the junk today and then organize tomorrow. Always pick the time yourself. Never play on their time frame. I appreciate your call, Sean.
Okay.
This is the time for choosing. I mean, we are entering this phase. These are people poisoning our water, our food, on record. I've given you all the documents. These are demonic pigs. But at the same time, it's time to reach out to those that serve the system who aren't awake. There's the quote. And how we burned in the camps later, thinking, what would things have been like if every security operative, when he went out at night to make an arrest, had been uncertain whether he would return alive and had to say goodbye to his family, or if during periods of mass arrest, as the example of Leningrad when they arrested a quarter of the entire city, people had not simply sat there in their lairs appalling with terror at every bang on the downstairs door and every step on the staircase, but it understood that they had nothing left to lose. Oh, that's me, folks. You better believe it. And had bodily set up in the downstairs hall, as our founders gave us, an ambush of half a dozen people with axes. We got more than that, thanks to George Washington. Hammers, pokers, and whatever else we had at hand. After all, you knew ahead of time that those blue caps were out at night for no good purpose, and you could sure ahead of time that you'd be cracking the skull of a cutthroat. Or what about the Black Maria sitting out there on the street with one lovely chauffeur, talking about a commie leader? What if it had been driven off of its tires, spiked? The organs would quickly have suffered a shortage of officers and transport, and notwithstanding all of Stalin's thirst for your blood, the cursed machine would have ground to a halt. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. We'll go back to more calls, but your comment on that.
This system feeds off your fear. And that's not just I've had a judge tell a friend of mine that. A judge told him, look, don't show any fear when you're in that courtroom. They feed off your fear. It's the same thing. What Solzhenitsyn was talking about is everyone was afraid to be the first one to fight. Let somebody else fight for my freedom. I don't want to fight for my freedom. Will somebody else please stand up and fight for my freedom? I'm afraid to fight for my freedom. I want someone else to fight for it. That is the attitude that puts people in camps.
Or we have the Alamo, where 168 people stood against 4,000 and died, but their sacrifice is known in eternity.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're talking about. It's a question of whether you will succumb to fear or you will stand up as an act of faith, an act of courage. And hard to do, easy to say, hard to do, but that's what it comes down to. You know?
But then even the Japanese come and put plaques at the Alamo.
Well, I don't know anything about Japanese
No,
plaques.
my point is even the Japanese people have come and put plaques at the Alamo for their honorable sacrifice, regardless of what side you're on. The idea, you live forever. I mean, it's better to die as a patriot on your feet than on your knees sucking the boots of some pot-bellied scumbag.
And again, it goes back to, is life so dear? I can't remember the entire quote, but I know
Is peace so sweet than to live on your knees as slaves?
Yeah, exactly. Is life so dear? No, there's a point in time it gets down to who are you? Who are you? How far are you willing to go just to hang on to your life? There's a point where you got to say, I'm not going any further. My life is not worth. There are things that are more important than my life. And when you get into that, then you become dangerous. You begin to see something more important. Now you're a dangerous man. So you escape that fear of dying, and then.
But again, I get back to the fear of not completing my mission. Do I let them take the guns that are in my house so that I can organize against them? Yeah, there it is. Is life so dear, or peace so sweet to be purchased at the price of chains or slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
that's Patrick Henry right there.
That's right. That's right.
But, I mean, people thought that's a radical statement. Give me liberty or give me death. That's the only answer. If you're not willing to die, you don't get liberty.
Exactly. And
there's always some little creature that wants to steal your liberty. There's always some bossy potbelly that's going to try to overrun you. If you're not ready to fight them, then get ready to bend over.
That's exactly right. And where does liberty come from? According to the Declaration of Independence, it's one of the God-given unalienable rights. Liberty flows from God. Freedom flows from man. You free the slaves. A man frees the slaves. God gives liberty. There's some overlap between the two terms. But if you want the real deal, that's the brass ring. You're looking for the liberty that comes from God. And you're saying, look, give me God. If I can't get my God-given rights, get me out of here. I don't want to be here. And that's the deal. From my perspective, it's spiritual warfare. It's not just liberty in a political sense or a legal sense. It's spiritual warfare. God gave me that liberty. I want it.
Well, folks, if you believe in what we're doing and want to see more of this put out to the four winds of this planet, donate at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or 888-253-3139. I am dedicated and 100% committed to overrun this enemy and to 100% put my body and my intellect against them, and so is my crew. Donate to us so that we can hire more reporters and get better equipment and at least attempt. Justice be done, may the heavens fall. Duty is ours. Consequence belongs to God. I don't know how this ends, but I am committed, frail and weak as I am. We are kings compared to this scum evil, and we must take them on head on InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or 888-253-3139 if you want to donate right now. Let's talk to Trip in New York, then Jeff, JT, Keith, Ben, Ralph, Palmer, Rachel, Don, Donna. Go ahead, Trip. You're on the air with Alfred Adask.
Hi, Alfred and Alex. Got two quick questions for you. This would have probably meant more before the supposed Osama bin Laden capture, but wouldn't it have drove Obama's ratings through the roof if he would have all of a sudden announced what we've all wanted and said that he thinks World Trade Center number 7 collapse was suspicious and actually relaunched an investigation with real experts?
Well, I don't believe Obama's ever going to make that statement, and I doubt if anybody in the White House who wants to keep breathing much longer is going to make that statement either. It's going to take an interesting revolution to get anyone in a significant position of power in government, especially the White House, to admit there's something suspicious.
Well, look, I mean, it's come out the government's stealing the drugs and bringing the guns, or, the different crime syndicates. They're a group of criminals. We'll never expect the criminals to admit they're a bunch of dirtbags.
That just, when that happens, that means the Christ is back amongst us. It'll be one of the signs. When you get a president who admits the crimes that have been committed by our government, that means end times are definitely here, and the Christ he's either here or he's awful close.
Anything else, Trip?
Yeah, well, I guess that takes that as we'll never hear that. But my second question is what is the Vatican thinking, wanting a world bank? Isn't it, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it signs of the end of times of one world government, one world bank?
All of the powerful structures are in the throes of the wicked one. I mean, Alfred?
I agree, but I would say this. Insofar as anyone, including the Vatican, is attempting to create a new world bank, we've got a lot of trouble happening in this world right now. And again, you look at Greece. They are refusing to pay the debt. Iceland already refused to pay the debt.
It's not their debt. It turned out it was all owed by the banks.
I understand. It's all a bunch of it's paying someone else's debt. There's all sorts of moral questions about it. If the people of the world, part of the Occupy Wall Street thing is motivated, at least part of it, by people who can't pay their college debts. There's millions of people who can't pay their mortgages right now. 4 million mortgages are 90 days or more behind on their payments. We are in a world right now where the debt can't be paid, and it's becoming increasingly obvious people are getting ready to just quit it. When they quit the debt, when they finally say, screw it, I'm not paying, that's all, I'm not paying, how about that? The debt-based monetary system will go with those debts. You're not going to just repudiate the national debt, and it's going to come to that, in my opinion. It has to, because it's too great to be paid. It's got to be repudiated. It's just a question whether you do it now or you do it 5 years from now or whenever. But it's got to be repudiated, in my opinion. If it does, you can't repudiate all that debt without also repudiating the debt-based monetary system. And from my perspective, without knowing the details of what's going on with the Vatican and perhaps trying to set up another bank or whatever, somebody's got to be looking at a new monetary system that's based on gold or silver. We're not going to, the debt can't be paid. I believe the debt-based monetary system's going down with it, and that means somebody's got to be putting a new banking system together right now in anticipation for this failure. At least that's the way it appears to me.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Trip. Jeff in Houston, you're on the air. Go ahead. Interesting hearing what's happening in your house. We can hear a woman talking to people in the background. God, I love this. I love the sounds of domestic noises. JT in Texas, you're on the air. We'll go back to Jeff in a minute. Go ahead, JT.
Yeah, I wanted to get Alfred's take on what the New World Order is doing to our kids. They seem to pay attention to them. What are these people's end game?
End game is to make the children accept the fact. I mean, from my perspective, I harp on this business about animals. I've seen it. I understand it pretty well, and it's part of it. They are working on the kids because they want to condition them. You know, a lot of people, and we've all been conditioned to some degree. Theory of evolution is one classic example. That theory of evolution is pretty much mandated by the government, and most people think, well, that's just scientific, and it's okay to teach science in the class and the rest of that. But the fundamental premise of that of evolution is that we are evolved from animals, and therefore we are animals. To my mind, it's not just a coincidence that they want to teach and force people to understand and embrace the theory of evolution. If you're just an animal, it's not going to be remarkable to you to find law that says you're just an animal. It's not a surprise. It's scientifically correct. But people don't understand that under our Declaration of Independence, we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, and they only flow to men and women. They don't flow to animals. If you don't get those God-given unalienable rights, you're nobody. Plus, third sentence in the Declaration says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. They are telling us the purpose of government as envisioned by the founders was to secure to every man, woman, and even unborn child their God-given unalienable rights. Insofar as government can persuade you that you're nothing but an animal, they have no obligation to recognize or secure your God-given unalienable rights. From my perspective, this is central to the problem.
JT, does that answer your question?
Yes, Alex.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you, JT. Keith in California, you're on the air with Alfred Adask.
Yeah, I just had a statement I wanted to make, Alex. This is more to your audience than to you. I'm not addressing this to the people that are donating and the people that have the bumper stickers and things like that. What I find interesting is you have millions of viewers out there. I think you're at about 170 right now in donations. It's almost like people sat on the sidelines. You know people can at least donate $1, donate something to this, put this thing to the roof. And they don't even have the care out there. It's like they're watching this as like it's entertainment or something. They don't get involved. I live here in the Bay Area. I might have seen 2 of your Infowars stickers within the past year on cars. I went up to the End of Fed demonstration. There was 2 of us from Infowars there. I mean, what's wrong with the people here? Are they so cowardly they can't step up? Their own kids are at stake. Their lives are at stake, and they don't stand for anything?
Well, Keith, I'll tell you this. I found that once people make that first step to be public, that's a big step, they think they're in danger. The truth is you're in danger when you're not public, from my experience. That's this whole chilling effect. And yes, we're in a depression. And that's why I'm not even telling folks, hey, give us donations, we got to have them. It'll help me hire the next line of people so that we can do an even better nightly news and radio show and produce even more. And it'll have a great effect and reach tens of millions of people. Biggest bang for the buck out there. But, you know, I never even wanted to grow to this level. Now that I'm here, I do need the funding. It's InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or 888-253-3139. Yeah, we have millions of listeners every day, 15 million a week conservatively. And you're right, it is a tiny fraction that will even spread the word, tell folks about the radio show, buy a video, donate. We have donations 1 time a year. But it is because somehow people like the government taking their money and giving it to causes they don't like. But to actually give, they understand psychically, spiritually, is to commit to something. Alfred, do you have any comments about this 27-hour broadcast? And I think it's great what we've raised so far. It's 170 or whatever. I mean, that's going to help us hire 2 or 3 people and do some stuff. I think it's great. I want to thank those that have donated. But yeah, I mean, Ron Paul should be given $1 billion. You know, Wall Street's giving that to Romney and Obama instead of Ron Paul getting 20 million. This show should get 20 million, not $500,000. I mean, it's like either give your treasure to the fight or have it taken and used against you. You know, it's like we ask, give to us if you want. The system just takes it.
I agree, and it's partly a certain amount of fear. People are a little bit afraid. We're in difficult economic times. They think, oh my gosh, I don't know if I have enough money for the kids' lunch next week or something like that. That motivates some people. It might
I don't want those folks to give. I'd rather slit my wrist.
I'm just saying there's a certain amount of fear behind this, and I don't know. It's one of those things where, again, you got to trust in the good Lord. He'll give you as much money as you need. Right?
No, but going back to that, Keith's talking about people that know what's going on but won't speak out, won't make a copy of a DVD, won't give $5.
I've run into it myself. We used to have meetings in Dallas, and we'd have a couple hundred people at the meeting, and it cost $200 to rent the room. We'd have 300 people at the meeting. I'd pass the hat to pay the rent. And sometimes I had to pass it 2 or 3 times to collect a lousy $200 to pay the room rent. You understand? Out of 300 people. They are notoriously cheap. All right? We had one guy come into town. He was a good, smooth talker. He had people sign up. He had 100 people sign up that were paying, what, $500 a piece to attend his seminars that extended over a couple of months, once a week over a couple. He collected $50,000 out of a group of people that I could barely get $150 out of. You understand? $200.
No, it's weird. You give them crap and make them pay up front, they'll do it. But you give them the world, they give you nothing.
I understand.
It's weird. It's crazy. It doesn't matter. The truth's getting out there, and we're hugely successful. We funded this whole operation. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate your comments. Ben in Iowa, you're on the air with Alfred Adask.
Alex, I've been trying to get a hold of you for years now, and I'm just going to ask you a question. But David Icke was on earlier, and that guy, you're right, he is on fire right now. I've been paying attention to that guy for a long time. But I think something that goes to all of your guests you had, Jesse Ventura and Dave Mustaine yesterday, like Gandhi said, you're in a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. And no matter what race, what sex, what anything you do in your day, the truth is, in all of these people. And when you say, we're all in, we're not just all in with ourselves. We want all the truth. We want all the corruption. We want all the crime. We want to see what we're living with in everyday life. Not just sitting on the sidelines and saying, oh, well, it's kind of bad, let's not do anything. No. I want it all, and bring it all to me because I want to know everything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Good Lord calls you to get the truth, and once you get an appetite for it, I can't imagine how you can give it up. No?
There's so many people out there that if I say, hey, did you see the TSA is groping people? Or, if you look at it from the point of view of just, sit yourself down.
No, they make excuses. Oh, they have a reason. They think if they make an excuse for it, it makes it okay.
Yeah, but everyone in the world can ask themselves one simple question. Am I treated and looked upon as an animal by people that control all of the systems, or am I looked upon as someone that's full of love and ambition and wants to do well?
No, exactly. They don't treat you like a sovereign creation in the image of God. They treat you like a dropping from a rat.
Yeah, and like what David Icke was saying, the man's amazing. The chasm that we have to get over, it's not like a little bridge we have to jump or, it's a chasm where we can barely even see the other side. We need to go out into it, and in the middle of the chasm there will be complete darkness and utter aloneness for, just us truth seekers. We're going to come out on the other side at some point. And everyone needs to realize that the truth will get you there. Ben,
I agree. I agree with you. We got to get past our fear, commit to truth. Alfred's got to go in just a few minutes. We got Texe Mars coming up. Let's jam in a few more calls. Ralph in California, you're on the air. Go ahead. You're on the air with Alfred Adask. Rachel in Tennessee, go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Alfred. How are you tonight?
Good.
Good.
Great. Just wanted to let you know, I did donate today for you. I've just been latched onto you for about 9 months now. I found you a couple of years ago and kind of went away, and then I came back. I said, now I'm into it. I'm in it. I've got my city. I'm trying to get them to get the fluoride out of the city. I've already got them stirred up with the hornet's nest. And I've got one of my kids, they're both teenagers. One of them he sits and watches you with me some nights, and the other, well, he thinks I'm a kook. But anyway.
Yeah, folks that thought slavery were wrong were called kooks.
Yeah.
But 60 years later, it was, well, just to be clear, ma'am, I appreciate your donation to the MoneyBomb at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, but I want to be clear. People who are not in good financial stead, and I want to make sure you're in good stead, I don't want any donations. For people that hate communism, globalism, New World Order, and who want to fund the #1 media organization fighting globalist tyranny, that's what it's all about. I want to thank you, but it's always the people that are of meager means that are giving, and that isn't who I want. Jesse Ventura has come out today and said, this is not the country I was born in. We're a fascist nation now. And I talked to the Venturas earlier tonight. They've ruled that the TSA can grab all of our genitals. But finishing up with you, ma'am, go ahead and finish your point.
I have a question for you, Alex. I've just recently went to one of our city's park, and I've seen signs that are posted all through the park. There's like 26 of them. They're bright red and bright green, and they're all emergency checkpoint signs. And there's map signs of the park, and it says Veterans Memorial Park Pre-Plan. Have you heard anything on parks?
Ma'am, they've got checkpoints as a beta test all over Tennessee. It's a real epicenter. They've got them all over the country, and they are just setting up federal checkpoints everywhere. The borders are wide open. It's all about breaking our will, training us to be prisoners ahead of forced inoculations and gun confiscation. It is just totally criminal. I appreciate your call, Rachel. Alfred Adask, I want to give you the final comment. I know you've got to go.
Well, it's all a question of courage. It's a question of faith. It's one of those things. It's like, people are afraid to give. They're afraid of a bunch of things. They're afraid to stand up, and it's part of what you said earlier. You're probably safer standing up than you are trying to hide. Folks like you stand up, and a lot of people are amazed you've been able to keep standing up. It's because you stand up that you become to some degree invulnerable. Even though you're a target, they'd like to get you, but they also know if they do, they're going to get a bunch of people that are going to get angry. It's the people that hide and hunker down that are more likely to be captured, oppressed, whatever.
No, it's what Solzhenitsyn goes back to. A quarter of the city gets arrested and deported. What if they would have just fought? Instead, they just waited. You're the government.
Yep.
You're wearing a uniform. You're my God. Take me to a camp. Gang rape me. Murder me. Shoot me in the head. You're a dirty commie. You're my master. Oh, God, I love you. Thank you for all the gang raping. And Jesse Ventura has now come out. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow. I talked to him earlier and the family earlier. They're very upset. He just wanted his day in court against not having pot-bellied pedophiles grab his testicles. And he said, this is not the country I was born in. We're a fascist nation now. They've tossed his lawsuit. I'm trying to convince him not to leave the United States because it's a worldwide tyranny. But it's totally disgusting what's happened, and we're going to have him on tomorrow with us. We had him on yesterday, obviously, but it's just a very dark day to be incrementally by a bunch of psychological warfare scum brought into this tyranny. But Alfred, I really want to thank you for spending all this time with us, and I look forward to having you host the broadcast or be back as a guest in the near future. We really appreciate you.
I appreciate the opportunity every single time, Alex. Thanks very much.
I appreciate you.
Time.
Oh, thank you. God bless you, my friend. You're a good friend, and I look forward to meeting you in person. I've watched your great work for many years. What's the website if folks want to learn more?
Adask, adask.wordpress.com. Just a blog.
All right, Alfred, go do your own show. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Alex. Good night.
All right, there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, another patriot. It is great solace to know there are other souls like mine out there, and you're out there as well fighting this evil. It is such a good feeling because ideas and the spirit of liberty is bulletproof, and they can't stop it. We're going to go to break with this TSA internal checkpoints report, dovetailing what the last caller was talking about. Texe Mars will join us, and then Gerald Celente, and many more coming up. InfowarsMoneyBomb.com to donate, or 888-253-3139. Be part of history. Help fuel the info war. We'll be right back.
He is now the first state ever to work with simultaneous counterterrorism operations statewide.
This was a massive operation, really bringing all federal, state, and local agencies together to not only do random searches, but also create an army of agents on wheels.
Friday, listeners pointed out local news saying the Army was going to be out, regular Army running checkpoints, searching citizens with police. The governor got called, our listeners called.
The Whiteville Police Department had plans to conduct a seatbelt checkpoint on Saturday, April 4th at Highway 64 within the city limits of Whiteville. The checkpoint was planned to be in conjunction with Homeland Security and the 251st Military Police in Bolivar.
Representative from Tennessee, District 80. Sir, thank you for coming on with us.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you for having me, Alex.
You bet. Now, we played the clip earlier of you on a local news station talking about Army checkpoints, The governor found out thanks to you and others and canceled it. Can you just in a nutshell tell us exactly, specifically what was going on?
Yes, I can. First of all, I have got to check. Now, I don't have concrete facts, but I don't think the military has, first of all, any jurisdiction to be checking seatbelts. When you look at the fact of a military unit being out, your daughter, my wife, or someone driving through a roadblock with all of these local officials, the army and everybody out there, I think it's just going to scare people to death. I think our local and state officials have the staff when needed to check seatbelts, to do a seatbelt check without the Army getting involved. And I just don't think it's a good idea.
Well, obviously, sir, I don't know if you've heard, but yes, it still violates posse comitatus. They haven't completely removed that 1878 law. We know in Mexico and communist China, they have troops on the streets. This is a sign of a banana republic, of a third world police state. So that we don't want that. But the larger issue here is that they've announced Homeland Security wants to put 20,000 regular Army troops to patrol America. The Naval War College, the Army War College has said their new job will be engaging us, combat with the American people to stop an insurrection against the banks. So, A, are you aware of that? B, can you tell us specifically what units, how why the Army was going to be out running checkpoints?
Well, I got this news late on Friday, and when I got the news, I immediately jumped on it to try to call some local authorities that I knew first to see what was going on. And when I made the call, I found out at that point in time that the governor had already made the decision to cancel this, and which I was very proud of that. But I am not aware of Homeland Security doing this. I did hear that they would be involved in this roadblock issue on last Friday.
Tuesday, Tennessee was the first to do this simultaneously at 5 weigh stations and 2 bus stations statewide. They're recruiting truck drivers like Rudy Gonzalez into the First Observer Highway Security Program to say something if they see something.
Not only truck drivers, but cars, everybody should be aware of what's going on the road.
It's all meant to urge every driver to call authorities if they see something suspicious.
Hi, I'm Janet Napolitano, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Homeland Security begins with hometown security.
We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well-funded.
The airport adventures, which they now admit are going nationwide with the Viper teams at bus stops, train stops, the streets, shopping malls, random vans, sending you through body scanners, biometrically scanning 360 your naked body.
Now, TSA agents are on the interstates fighting terrorism with visible intermodal prevention and response, or Viper operations. The Tennessee Highway Patrol is checking trucks with drug and bomb-sniffing dogs during random inspections.
The bottom line is this: if you see something suspicious, say something about it.
And/or subject to other police action.
Tyranny is here. The grim future foretold in